in our marriage. I wouldn't trade that for the world. And now I just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trusting God.
Absolutely. He's got a plan. You never know what it is, but
you
got to trust.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Kirkpatrick.
And my name is Ty Whitman.
And we're the hosts of the Beyond the Narthex podcast.
A show where we sit down with members of CK Press and go beyond our narthex and take a deeper dive into the lives of our church family.
Our hope is that each episode will cultivate and encourage new conversations for you, our listeners, with our guests.
Enjoy the episode.
Well, we're here with Peggy, and so would you be able to just introduce yourself as little as you want to say, and your involvement with CK Press, and and if there's something that comes to mind about yourself that you think, this would be helpful for the congregation to know, feel free to share that also.
Well, a little bit about me. My husband Ron and I joined the congregation right after they moved from Clear Creek. To the new facility. And Ron was in the Rotary Club with John, and he says, boy, we got somebody dynamic. We need to go to church there. I said, sure, fine, works for me. Because I have a strong foundation in the Catholic faith, Ron and I made an agreement when we were young that I would continue to worship with him. And if he wanted to come with me, that was fine. But I really felt the commitment I needed to go. So for years, I got up early in the morning and I went to my services. And then I would join him here. And it worked great until he got sick. And he's not able to drive. So we've been coming here. Some things that people probably don't know about me is... I was an elder in the church in the early 80s. And I started the Creative Connection preschool. Yeah, that was my assignment. John put me on that because I was in education.
Oh my.
So I started that. I didn't start it. I was part of the team. I was the elder in the research and everything. And we hired a fabulous woman, friend of mine, Sherry Brooks, and we started the Creative Connection preschool. Really thought that was something important. Yeah. So I did that. And then Diane Ziegler and I kind of rejuvenated the women's group. There used to be a women's group here, and then it kind of went by the wayside, and who knows why. Leaders of the church probably didn't want to do that. But, I said to her, we need to have all the girlfriends together. And so I offered up my home. I said, well, just have everybody come. We'll have a luncheon, a salad luncheon. And we kind of organized. And then we opened it to the women congregation. And I started with my magic easel. And we just wrote down every single month. And kind of like a PTA thing. If you've ever been in PTA, you plan by the month. And we just asked people, we voted, what do you want to do? And we started with brainstorming, and I said, all ideas are good ideas, regardless. We can't judge anybody's ideas. So if you think mud wrestling is a good idea, then throw it out there, and we're going to vote on it. And so we made this big list of all kinds of things, and then we voted on 9 great things to do. And then we asked people, okay, who wants to step up to the plate and be in charge? So that's kind of how we got the whole momentum of the women's group. And did the women's retreat, and Michelle and Marcia Shaw and Diane and I, and at that time we had a homeless girl living with us, Helen. We just kind of organized stuff and got it going. So that's something people probably don't know about me.
And that was fairly, in the last decade? Okay. Wow. And that's what we know as the women of CKPC, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very thriving ministry for
us.
Yeah, you guys routinely, at least you'll get 30 women at an event at the minimum, which is always really impressive to me. And it is, there's a cultural part to that. Women do tend to just do more church events than men, unfortunately.
Filling a different kind of need, I guess, for them,
But it's
social
really,
connection.
It is really cool to see what you guys have done.
I call that my country club girlfriends. That's weird to say, but just really enjoy the social aspect and the things that we do.
Oh, totally.
So you mentioned that you have a background in education.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, my original degree is from the University of Washington in foods and nutrition. So I worked in research, thus my conversation about nutrition, at the University Hospital. And back then, in the 70s, I didn't like hospital work. So I says, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You know, I spent all this money and time and energy, and I have all this knowledge. So I was picked up by the Kent School District without an education degree. I had a degree in science. You probably won't guess my degree, but anyway, I had a degree and I applied for this job, and my mother-in-law, bless her heart, who was HR director for CK for years, CK schools, says, oh, you'll never get the job because you don't have an educational background. So I thought, well, I'll apply. I applied, and sure enough, they called me in and said, would you be our science teacher? And I said, sure, be happy to. So I just kind of taught the way I was taught, which isn't the best way to teach, you know. But then I got really into education, and I moved over from teaching science, you know, biology, chemistry, never did physics. My dad was a physicist, but, and then moved into the nutrition aspect, and then did culinary arts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of the farm to table.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. And so it was a win-win because, you know, what kid doesn't like to eat? So,
True,
you know, food. They learn how to make food, so I always had full class loads.
Yeah.
And what age group was that? The culinary arts? Or I guess
High school. Junior high and high school.
That's
So I
great.
started with the high school kids. That's where I started, Kent Meridian High School in Kent. I started teaching there and coaching because I had a kind of a PE athletic anatomy and physiology.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a wide array of subjects.
Yes.
Were you living over there too? Or were
I
you...
was living, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to school at the University of Washington, and then I lived in the Kent school district for 3 years.
Okay.
And then my husband and I got married, and it worked out great. He was going to school at Santa Clara University.
Okay.
And law school.
Yeah.
But we met at the University of Washington. So anyway, I got a job over here at the South Kitsap schools.
Okay.
And then from the South Kitsap, I went into administration. And I didn't like it because I had little boys, and, you know, I had to work 230-day contract.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah, I didn't like the night stuff all the time. So
Right.
then I went back to the classroom, which was a blessing.
Okay.
Really like that, yeah.
Were you a principal at one point?
Oh, yeah.
In there? Okay.
Yeah.
Was that in the CK district? I'm trying to
I was the
remember.
principal at West Hills Elementary.
Okay, that's
Okay.
the
Yeah,
connection.
yeah. And then from there they moved me into central office, which I did not like.
Oh. Yeah.
I miss the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can honestly say I never worked a day in my life because I was with kids, and they give you energy and opportunity to practice your skills.
Yeah.
So,
You hear that so often, don't you? That
Yes.
when they move from the classroom, it's just there's that, that pain where you just miss being with them. So.
and I had the kids would stop by and see me at the front desk, and they'd call me in, and it's like, oh, you got kids here again today. It's like, come on, that's why we're in the business.
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then again, after my boys were older, I was richly blessed. I was at Clahowya, and both of my boys went to school there.
Okay.
Yeah. So got to ride with them in the car and hear the conversations. I knew their friends. So that was great.
Did you ever have them in class?
I had Derek
Okay.
in my introduction to culinary arts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such a I always kind of wish that I had taken that class because I loved cooking so much.
Sure.
And I learned all by myself. But so do you love to cook at home too and do that kind of?
I used to cook a lot.
Okay.
I mean, I did. And I kind of, when I would do the women's retreats and luncheons and so on, I'd always give a talk on, you know, food from the Bible and why we ate food from the Bible and why it's so nutritious. And I've done that really all over for a lot of different churches.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the MOPS
Yeah.
group.
Sure.
Yeah, I've done talks for them quite a bit on how to get kids to eat and make sure it's more nutritious. And then I just retired, 3 times, I think.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I got called back, which I said, okay, as long as, you know, Ron was working.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my background in education.
Yeah. Yeah, is there a connection? I mean, earlier, and I don't even know if we were recording at this point, but you had mentioned, you don't know how people essentially do life without faith.
Oh, absolutely.
And so in education, I mean, can you bridge that connection? Faith and education?
Oh, absolutely.
Teacher in the classroom?
You just look at every kid's face and you know that it's somebody's child. Mm. And they have a mother and a father and just that whole love and, seeing Jesus in the eyes of those struggling kids. Mm. I recently was at Arlington School District for, they called me in like 3 different times. And I worked with the really troubled kids, and I just loved on them, and they weren't used to that. So, again, the Mother Teresa approach of, holding, hugging. I mean, I never hugged them, but just spend a lot of quality time with them, and they weren't used to that.
Yeah.
Used to being rejected because they were always rejected. So, just that faith, and God is with us, and we need to see the image and likeness of God in every single person, whether it's a homeless person, a successful person.
Yeah. I know that I've heard from some teachers that are Christians that they, especially now, they feel really boxed in the public schools because they can't share their faith. But they found that kind of doing what you were saying, being just being there for these kids and available and loving on them, opened up really awesome doors for them. The kids would come after class,
absolutely,
and then they could do it then.
Yeah.
And so, did you ever have some of those conversations with kids?
Oh, absolutely.
About
the kids would say, you're really different, and I just would start out. I'm richly blessed. God has blessed me.
Yeah.
And I really believe a lot of the challenges we are having with kids today is we've taken morality out of the equation in schools. And because we're not free to talk about what we believe, regardless if it's Christianity or Buddhism or, being a Muslim, you can't talk about that. So I think they want to know. I mean, I think we all have that inner desire of who am I and why am I created and why am I here? And I think we lack giving kids that strength.
Yeah.
I'm here because somebody really loves me other than my mom and dad. Yeah. And I was made in his image of God.
That's so good.
Yeah. And it's true. And to have someone who they also love and respect and return as you as their teacher, to be able to name, I am this way because of him, or
absolutely
because of this. It's like, there's an anchor in this person's life, and therefore, what does that mean for me as a student? Like, and then questions and conversations start. But I agree. It just seems like if we have, there's a type of moral compass. There's some guidance.
Exactly.
Totally.
They may not necessarily, abide by the same beliefs, which is fine. But it's just to be anchored in something. Yeah.
So one of the things that people might not know about you as well is you went and got your master's degree recently.
Yes, I haven't finished it yet. I have a master's working on a master's in theology from Gonzaga University, and it's kind of on hold now. I have 2 other master's degrees, but this is something that I've always wanted to do is pursue, and it's been really enriching for me because my quote professors at Gonzaga, we have a lot of connection. They're not all Catholic. My New Testament teacher is a Presbyterian minister in the Spokane area. My Old Testament professor is a rabbi, and she's, again, in the Spokane area. So you really get a whole different view on that. And, so it's been very, very enlightening. Things I didn't think of before.
What was the kind of driving force behind the dream or desire to go do that? Why?
Well, I've always kind of had a desire to serve God. When I was younger, I wanted to be a nun. But,
oh, really?
Yeah. And so once I was done with the educational component, I wanted to be like a chaplain for hospice or for the hospital, Naval Hospital. My mom was instrumental in that she volunteered at the Naval Hospital and got volunteer the year for years and years and years and years. And I just always wanted to be of service to God and more of a formal situation rather than just through education. And I was just curious. We're all curious.
Yeah.
We want to know more.
Yeah.
And I have gained a lot of insight. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole.
Sure.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
an
exciting.
experience.
Exciting
It is.
too.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. And the dedication of the people of God, the Jewish people in the Old Testament, just constantly waiting and, loving God and waiting and just, which is interesting. They just taken the Bible out of schools in Utah.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, you
I didn't
haven't
know
read that. Yeah.
No.
It's too violent.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, especially the Old Testament. But so is Revelation. But
Yeah.
everybody always says, the Old Testament God is different than the New Testament. But they don't. Then you read Revelation, you go, it's the same God. And you read, Exodus 34, and you realize that he's the one who forgives the transgressions of the second and the third generation, and plentiful in mercy and goodness,
and a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
People have a lot of confusion about God and faith and Jesus and the apostles, and so it's kind of nice to hear from experts.
That's
And get a different viewpoint.
Yeah. What's something that you feel how has that affected your devotional life? Not just your intellectual understanding of theology, but how has the degree helped your devotional life, or has it impacted?
Oh, it has extremely. I spend a lot more time during the day with God.
Yeah.
Which I didn't before. I mean, I did, but I was busy.
Yeah.
I spend my mornings hanging out with him and Jesus, which I didn't before. And spend a lot of time in prayer, a lot more time intentionally in prayer. And at night, I put on my headphones and I listen to the Bible in a year, which is really great. It literally goes through the Bible. Even though I've done it before, I continue to do it, and then I go, oh yeah, that's right. Forgot about that story.
That's great.
And there is an app called Pray As You Go, and I've been exposed to a lot of music from all around the world where people are praising God in their own languages, and it's just phenomenal. Like the University of Johannesburg Choir.
Okay.
And they do all the African songs. And so much more intentional.
Yeah.
And another connection to believers across the world.
Absolutely.
That depth of faith.
Uniting in Christ.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about doing rich study in the way that as long as you're not doing it coldly, which I think some people do, where it's just it's a science, right? But if you go into it and you're recognizing that you're getting to, like you said, I just love that phrase of hanging out with God.
Yeah,
that's what you get to do. Because you're expecting that the Holy Spirit is actually going to move and teach you, and ground you in maybe a deeper relationship with Him through that.
When I was younger, my father was very intelligent man, served in World War II. My mom was a Rosie the Riveter. And they were much older when I was born because of World War II. But he was a very charismatic Catholic. He went to revivals. And he's always been my encouragement to get deeper and deeper and deeper into what you believe so you can walk the faith and share it. Yeah. And again, like we talked about education, the kids just often would say to me, "You're different."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." That kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
And go above and beyond and do anything and everything for them, and they're not used to that.
Yeah.
And that's what God would do, Jesus would do.
And then for you, as you go deeper and deeper, I mean, obviously there's questions that we all have that may never be answered, and you dive down the rabbit hole a little further.
Yeah.
But, is that ever unsettling for you? And if it is that fine? And, what does that look like in your faith journey? Because I do feel like if we talk about the present day, I think as things get, peeled back and either deconstructed, whatever terms we want to use, it can be really shattering for individuals in faith. And yet, for others, it can be grounding, or you come full circle. So for you, what does it look like to peel it back?
One of the things that I have been challenged with, of course, is my husband's condition. He has Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's, and I just keep asking God, why? This is such a giving man, and why is this happening? But I look over his life, and he has left a legacy in this community. People don't realize it, but I'm just so thankful for that. And I often say, oh Lord, he could have done so much more, but I think he has done more, and now he's doing more in me because I'm taking this attitude is just to continue to love on him, and give every day to God's glory by taking care of him. But
yeah, that's probably a question everybody's asked at some point.
Yeah. Why is this happening to me? Why does God do bad things to good people?
Right.
Yeah.
And it continues.
Yeah.
But, I mean, your posture in the conversations that we may have in passing, like you do always seem just gracious, like to God for what is going on. And I know we don't always see behind the scenes, but I do believe, like, in speaking with you now, I do believe that there is still, the Holy Spirit is working a peace in you because of this. And so, I mean, how does that feel? Like,
well, we often think about us personally. How do we personally feel? But we have to die to self. I mean, Jesus says you got to die to yourself to get on this boat. And so, it's just, again, God's grace. It's hard to explain. Grace and mercy.
Yeah.
Really hard to explain, but just what it is.
Yeah. There's, I don't know if there's been a moment where I've seen you in the Narthex and haven't had you say something to the tune of, I'm richly blessed. Or,
Absolutely.
Right.
I have no complaints in life. Richly blessed.
Yeah.
It's
and
true
that's
to
such
your
a good
character.
such a good posture to have.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, you could go wah 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 wah, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
And I like to share that joy. I don't. Here's another thing you probably don't know about me, but I'm always sending cards to the congregation, and I've really established some great friends and relationships where people have responded and said, "Thank you for that card." I mean, it's just so simple. You just write a little note, say "thinking of you," but to me, that's God calls on me to pray for this person, and so as I pray, I write them a little card. Like I wrote a little card this morning and haven't mailed it, but So I think that's a way to share joy with people.
Yeah.
Share myself and rich blessings.
It seems from this conversation and just knowing you that one of the things that God has gifted you with is this kind of ability to serve in a bunch of different ways, both behind the scenes and also, I mean, in scenes like that we weren't around for, but in the starting the Creative Connection Preschool, like that's
pioneering
that kind of stuff. So, do you feel like as your time here has changed and your situation and context has changed now, that your service has changed with that, your style of service or your interest in serving has changed?
I would like to serve a lot more, but my life is not my life right now. So if that makes sense, it's not something I can just choose to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think as time changes and people change,
Yeah.
we need to change to the times. And I always chuckle when I hear my colleagues and other people saying "Rah, rah, rah," technology, but I've embraced it. I mean, why fight it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's such a. It always, every time I see somebody like you, I'm encouraged, because I think people like you, and there's so many in our church.
Oh yes.
That's what kind of keeps the church running.
Exactly.
This intrinsic passion to continue.
To continue to serve. I mean, Tyler and I, or whoever the pastor is at any given moment, we can only do so much.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so it's always so cool to see those people. So it's really encouraging, and it also makes me want to go. I I want to send cards.
Right.
I can't make cards.
Yeah.
My wife can. But I want to send cards more often, or letters, or I want to be better about, praying and specifically for a person and letting them know that I did that.
I have two mentors. One of them was one of my professors at Seattle Pacific University when I was getting my administration degree, and he was a superintendent, and he said he started every day with at least 3 cards to either staff members, people in the community, thanking people that you didn't even know. And he said it made all the difference in his life, beginning every day with gratitude. And I think we need to do that
Wow.
rather than, why is this happening to me?
Right.
And mindfulness is, I feel like, a buzzword. Maybe, I don't know, it probably still is, but it goes beyond just being grateful and listing them in your brain to actively choosing to send those cards and put yourself out there in the mail, and it'll be received. And
it's amazing how people are touched.
Yeah, it's it's a small sacrifice, but it is a real image of self-sacrifice in a way, because you can take those 20 minutes for yourself. Whereas rather you're kind of denying yourself of maybe 20 minutes of free time to do something for somebody else. They may actually, who knows, they may not respond to you ever.
Yeah,
It may still have touched them, and you may not ever actually see the joy that it brings to them. But you're still, it probably sets your mind up and your heart up for maybe having to be more self-sacrificial like you.
Yeah. Well, again, it's going back to hanging out with God. Who should I pray for today? Who really needs a little bit of encouragement or whatever. Yeah. And I do a lot of it anonymously, but people figured out who it is.
Well, is there anything for you and Ron, like you had mentioned the other day on a Sunday, he enjoys coming and being here on Sundays.
Oh my gosh.
That's wonderful.
And I think with the memory, when you have a disease like that, your short-term memory is gone. I mean, I hate to admit it, but he doesn't really remember my name, some days. He remembers our grandson, Teddy. Again, any emotional connection. But he remembers coming to church, and he remembers the feeling and the emotion that you get from that connection. And he even said to me today, when I said I was going to go to the church, he says, "Oh, we haven't been to church in a while." And I says, "I know, honey, we didn't go yesterday." And just the comment, I really like to go to church. I really want to go to church.
Yeah.
And I says, "Well, there's a concert coming up, and
Yeah.
I'll make sure that you go to that if he's awake." But
Yeah. That rhythm is so powerful. And his song clearly is super powerful too. I don't know if he
sound.
the sound, the hymns and those things of his, and I'm sure even some of the songs that we sing that are from like the 90s every now and then, some of those praise band songs I'm sure can, because I always think about my time at Krista Shores, and in the independent living they all could read and they could read the hymnals, but in the assisted living they couldn't. But they always sang 3 hymns.
Absolutely, and they know them.
And they didn't even open their hymnals. And it was just the most beautiful sound.
Imprinted on their heart,
Exactly.
And I would I'd get up and try to preach, and I'd know, like, well, this probably, I know the Holy Spirit is working now, but the powerful moment of this space, of this church of theirs, because that's what it is, even though we're not in a chapel or in a church, is the song and the beauty and the power of music.
I thought it was interesting when my mother had dementia. The church would come every Sunday and bring her communion, like every Sunday. And she never forgot the Lord's Prayer. She would many times not talk, not say anything, but she always remembered the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
And that is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. See, it's the prayer that is all sufficient for us.
Well, so Peggy, as people are experiencing this kind of life-changing, chapter, as their spouse, partner, close loved one is experiencing dementia, what have you, and you can address us as the church, talk to us as the church too, but is there something specifically that you're like, this would be helpful, like this needs to happen, or you feel nudged in a way to like encourage people in a certain direction? Like what? Yeah, I understand that you are richly blessed, and I hope that, you know, if people are experiencing, you know, events like this, that they feel supported. But is there a way to support, or is it basically like it's you there with Ron because you're familiar and coming to church, and that's working well for you now? That's a ton of questions at once.
Yeah.
If you could speak to
Well,
that.
I think what's really beneficial is just acknowledging Ron. You know, I look over his life and all the things that he's done, and I will have to say, consistently, everybody says hi to him here. You know, I'm thinking about all of his past clients and colleagues and golf buddies and friends, and he doesn't really hear anything from them. I mean, which is sad. But at church, he feels embraced. He feels loved. And I think that's really important in your later years of life, that you don't feel that you're not valued and you're not worthless, or you know, that whole circle of life. You hear about people being old and feeling that they're not contributing anything, and you know, but just to be acknowledged, like, hi Ron, how's it going, you know? Good to see you. I mean, that's all he really needs.
That's good. And that's what the beauty of the Narthex is.
Yes.
Our fellowship time is to be able to have those interactions, and it's, you know, one of the things that's really cool about our church is because of the history of it, and kind of where we are generationally. We have a lot of young families now with young kids, which is really exciting. And there are people that I'm sure, and you and Ron might probably feel this a lot too. Like you can't serve, or you can't in the way that you could in the '80s, just because you just don't have the time and that kind of,
or like the needs are different.
Or the needs are different too. But the way that you bless the congregation, I think sometimes it's just your presence here, and,
Well, thank you.
and the wisdom
Thank
that you guys that
Yeah.
you guys bring, and
and I think it's, you know, Ron's personality. Again, I'm richly blessed to have him. He doesn't remember that he was a lawyer. If you ask him what he did, he say, I helped people. And he can tell you all these things that he did to help people.
interesting.
Yeah, which
specific accounts.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah. One of them was the Suquamish tribe, and he did all their wills for free, just for free, and that was his gift to them. And all the giving that he did, and the legacy that he left in our community that people aren't even aware of. You know, starting the transit ferry, Kitsap Transit Fast Ferry,
Really?
doing all the research, purchasing those boats, and hiring the builders from New Zealand to do the hydrofoils, and traveling as a consultant all over of companies, transit companies that wanted the same system. And you know the Norm Dix Center, Ron did the federal work to get that built for the city, and the new ferry the ferry terminal. Getting Lisa Storette to do all the artwork, and I could go on and on and on. And defending a community because they put a crematorium in their neighborhood, and the kids would be outside playing, and all these ashes would fall down. And of course they couldn't afford an attorney, and he went in there and had the county change their ruling and moved it out of there. In a preschool that people were complaining about the kids laughing and screaming, you know, during recess. And they wanted to close down. You know, those kind of things that, and doing things for Boy Scouts, you know, and Rotary Club, and giving. Yeah, he's a giver, not a taker.
That's good.
Wow. And that's how he remembers his legacy. He helped.
Absolutely. That's what he'll tell you.
That's
and that's why he
beautiful.
likes going to church, you know. Because he feels people are giving to him now, giving back. Yeah.
That's amazing to know. He enters a space, and even if he can't recall names or recall specific instances with these people, he's feeling the sense of, oh, that's beautiful too. I love that. I would say if it's Ron, we could put him on.
he doesn't know how to answer the phone. That's the limit. Remind me I have to give a plasma. Yeah.
Well, what's this is not normally what we end our conversations on, so we don't have to end it here. But I kind of want to. Where's a one way recently that you've really noticed God's presence or God showing up in your life? There might be a lot, but once one like really stands
out. I think my nighttime conversations with Ron. He wakes up in the middle of the night and he's curious and asks me questions, and I just thank God that I've had the opportunity and I see him presently, like the guardian angels around us.
Right, yeah.
I really see him working there. And I think children are gifts from God, so I really see God present in my grandchildren and the joy that they share. And again, I see God's presence in this church and the giving that everybody does. And he moves mountains.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I've really seen. And the beauty of the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Just went to Alaska. It's just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's such a power to me being... I mean, Grace and I have been married for a year and a half, almost. But to watch, to see you and Ron's... I mean, it's through, for sickness and in health.
Until death do us part.
Death do us part. To take those covenant vows so seriously. And when you get married, you don't ever think that that's going to be you. And then it is, or it might, and to just see you guys. I think that's where when I watch your guys' marriage, or just anybody that is going through that at the moment, you're like, that's love. And that's the love of God too. It's the way he loves us.
Absolutely, unconditionally.
Unconditionally, yeah. And we...
regardless of what we do.
So it's just, it's been a gift.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for modeling that.
No, thank you. I mean, it's not me, it's the Holy Spirit working through me.
Amen, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a vessel of that. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone wanted to continue a conversation with you about anything we've discussed, or, what would be a helpful lead-in the Narthex? Or just coming up and talking to you.
Just coming up and talking to me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, you're you're pretty approachable.
I try.
Pretty easy to come talk to.
Yeah. I think it's the education in you, working with so many people for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, different backgrounds and cultures, diversity, genders.
Yeah.
You just got to love on all of them.
Yeah.
Well, and when we talk to Ron, is there something that's like, oh, he'll be excited to talk about that? Or do we just kind of get a pulse for the day?
Just get a pulse for the day, because
who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Well, thank you for...
Well, thank you.
Taking some time.
I was honored to do this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to have, unique and new conversations and old conversations with people in our church, and I think it'll bless our congregation a lot.
I do too.
Being able to kind of you just learn from maybe the things that we didn't even mean to teach or
uncover. I'm like, we could have a whole other segment on wanting to be a nun.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Religious life. Yeah.
I know.
Well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Peggy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.